I transmigrated into the younger brother of the female lead in a domineering CEO novel. The moment I opened my eyes, I saw a man in a custom-tailored suit throwing a voluntary living organ donation agreement in front of my sister. Qingxue, sign it. Weiwei needs your kidney. As long as you sign, this 100 million is yours. My sister's face was deathly pale, her eyes brimming with tears as she stared at him, her body swaying unsteadily. The man's gaze was icy, devoid of any emotion. Silently, I picked up my phone and, right in front of both of them, pressed 3 buttons. Hello, 911, I'd like to report a case of forced buying and selling of human organs here. The other end of the phone fell silent. My sister stared at me in shock. The domineering CEO across from me even wore an expression that seemed to say, "Are you out of your mind?" After a brief silence on the other end of the line, a calm, official-sounding female voice came through. Hello. Please state your specific location and situation. I quickly reported the address of the VIP ward on the top floor of the private hospital where we were. Someone is threatening my sister with 100 million to sign a living organ donation agreement, forcing her to donate a kidney. I suspect this is an organized criminal group. My voice wasn't loud, but in the deathly silent hospital room, every word rang out with crystal clarity. My sister Lin Qingshue's mouth formed a perfect O. The tears in her eyes forgotten, suspended in their fall. The man opposite, Gu Yechen, finally dropped his standard domineering CEO expression. He let out a derisive snort and undid the first button of his suit jacket. Lin Xiaofan, what kind of trick are you playing? 100 million is enough for a small, run-down supermarket like yours to earn in a lifetime. Don't be ungrateful when I'm giving you face. I ignored him and continued speaking into the phone. The police. He's starting to threaten me. Yes. It's him, Gu Yechen, the CEO of Xingshe Group in City A. Gu Yechen's expression finally changed. He probably never imagined that his name would appear alongside criminal gang in a police report. He took a step forward, trying to snatch my phone. I took a step back, shielding my sister behind me. What are you trying to do? Rob me, or cause intentional harm? Gu Yechen was momentarily stunned by my question. He was accustomed to everyone bowing and scraping before him, accustomed to solving everything with money and power. The law, what was that? Could it possibly be more formidable than his team of lawyers? You have 3 seconds to hang up the phone and then get out. He issued his ultimatum. My sister tugged at the hem of my shirt, her voice trembling. Xiaofan, no, don't. We can't afford to provoke him. She was still afraid, after being subjected to PUA for so long. Even the instinct to resist was nearly gone. I patted her hand and said softly, "Sis, don't be afraid." Then, I shouted into the phone, "Uncle Police, help, he's trying to kill me to silence me." That shout, full of vigor, echoed through the hallway. Gu Yechen's face turned as dark as the bottom of a pot. In less than 10 minutes, the door to the hospital room was abruptly pushed open. 2 police officers in uniform walked in, their expressions stern. Who called the police? I immediately raised my hand. I did. Gu Yechen saw the police and, far from being intimidated, showed a hint of disdain. He straightened his tie, returning to his usual haughty demeanor. "It's just a small misunderstanding. You've made a wasted trip. You can leave now." As he spoke, he reached into his pocket to pull out his checkbook. The lead police officer furrowed his brow. "We've received a report alleging forced transactions of human organs here. The nature of this case is extremely serious. Please cooperate with the investigation." Gu Yechen smiled. "Do you know who I am?" He beckoned to the police officer with a finger. "Let your chief come and speak to me." The police officer's face instantly turned cold. "This is a society governed by law. No matter who you are, you must abide by the law. Please show me your ID." At that moment, I rushed forward in a flash, stood before the police officer, and began wailing loudly while holding onto my sister. "Uncle Policeman, it's him. He forced my sister to donate her kidney. My sister is in poor health. If she's gone, our family will collapse." "Woo woo," I cried my heart out, my face smeared with snot and tears. The 2 bodyguards in black suits brought by Gu Yechen tried to step forward and pull me away. The police officer shouted sternly, "Nobody move. Everyone on the scene. Stay where you are. Anyone who dares obstruct official duties will be taken back to the station together." The bodyguards froze instantly. Another young police officer had already begun collecting evidence. snapping photos of the voluntary living organ donation agreement. With a series of clicks, the lead officer approached my sister, his tone noticeably gentler. Ms. Lin, are you signing this agreement voluntarily? If you've been coerced in any way, please tell us. We will stand up for you. My sister was completely stunned by the whole scene. She looked at me, then at the police. Then at Gu Yechen's ashen face. Her worldview was undergoing a violent earthquake. Gu Yechen tried to pull out his phone to call for backup. The police officer politely extended his hand. During the investigation, please hand over your communication devices. In the end, due to suspicion of coercing others into causing serious bodily harm, the domineering CEO Gu Yechen was invited back to the police station. As key witnesses, my sister and I also got into the police car together. Before getting in the car, Gu Yechen glared at me fiercely, his eyes as if poisoned. I responded with a pure, harmless, even slightly silly smile. In the police car, I whispered to my sister, "Sis, don't be afraid. If something happens, go to the police. That's common sense." She gazed at the street scenes rapidly receding outside the window and nodded blankly. I knew that from today onward, her world would never be the same. Inside the police station, the lights were ablaze. Gu Yechen was taken into the interrogation room, while my sister and I waited in the adjacent inquiry room. He probably thought this was just a formality, and that some well-connected figure would soon pull strings to get him out. Before the interrogation room door closed, I heard his arrogant voice. "I order you to release me immediately. Do you have any idea how many billions you're costing me for every minute I'm delayed?" The only response was the click of the lock as the door was secured. The atmosphere between my sister and me was much more gentle. A kind female police officer poured us hot water. "Don't be afraid, just tell us exactly what happened." I began my performance. I vividly recounted how Gu Yechen, because his beloved needed a kidney transplant, resorted to threats and bribes to coerce my sister. I portrayed my sister as an innocent victim, blinded by love and oppressed by power. He always said that the entire city A was his. He could decide who lives and who dies. I casually added this line. The police officer in charge of recording paused his pen, looked up at me, and silently wrote down the words, "gang-related tendencies," in the notebook. He also said that the 100 million was a blessing for my sister, and she should accept it with gratitude. The female officer frowned as she listened, her gaze toward my sister filled with sympathy. "Qingxue, is what he said true?" My sister gripped the water glass, her fingertips turning white. She nodded, tears falling once more. He really did say that." The policewoman patted her shoulder. "Silly girl, this isn't love, it's a crime, buying and selling organs with money, treating your health and life as tradable commodities. This is an insult to your dignity. True love is about respect, not control and harm." The policewoman's words acted like a key, prying open the rusted lock in my sister's heart. For the first time, the distorted notion of domination equals love that Gu Yechen had long instilled in her began to show cracks. On the other side, in the interrogation room, Gu Yechen was receiving a legal education. "Mr. Gu, according to Article 234 of China's criminal law, organizing, coercing, inducing, or deceiving others to extract organs from living persons are all criminal acts." The police officer was holding a thick copy of the criminal law, reading it to him word by word. "Your actions, although they have not yet caused actual harm, may already constitute intentional injury." "Preparation? What preparation? I paid 100 million, Gu Yechen roared. "Mr. Gu, the right to life and health is priceless and cannot be measured by money. I don't care, I want to see my lawyer." The lawyer arrived quickly, accompanied by the top legal team in City A. However, when they heard the details of the case and learned that Gu Yechen had openly challenged the police by saying, "Let your chief come here," their expressions changed. "Mr. Gu, this time it's a bit troublesome." "What trouble? I pay you exorbitant legal fees not to hear you say it's troublesome." The nature of the case is quite severe, and the social impact is negative. The higher-ups are taking it very seriously. The bail application has been rejected. Gu Yechen was required to stay at the police station for a full 24 hours to undergo ideological education. He was also made to watch a legal education film titled, "Don't Reach Out, or You Will Be Caught." On the screen, one by one, once arrogant, big shots, were handcuffed. Weeping bitterly, Gu Yechen's face turned from ashen to deathly pale. 24 hours later, Gu Yechen was released because no substantial harm had been caused. and the evidence chain was insufficient to directly convict him. However, he was informed that he must be available at all times and was restricted from leaving the country. As he walked out of the police station gate, he saw me supporting my frail sister, who looked as if she might faint at any moment. In the sunlight, the face of this cheap brother of mine appeared so delicate and harmless. He suppressed the anger in his heart, walked over, and actually tried to maintain his domineering CEO demeanor. Lin Xiaofan, you're still young and don't know any better. I won't blame you this time. Don't play these little tricks again in the future. I looked up, my expression full of righteousness. Mr. Gu, this isn't just cleverness. It's the rights and duties of a citizen. With the law protecting us, we have nothing to fear. Gu Yechen's lips twitched, nearly causing him internal injury. He waved his hand dismissively, got into his Maybach, and sped away. I know, this is just the beginning. He thought money and power could smooth everything over, but he didn't understand that there is an even more terrifying force in this world. I took out my phone and logged into a long-unused anonymous account. The real battle has only just begun. That night, a lengthy post titled, A Desperate Brother's Plea. Billionaire forces my girlfriend's sister to donate a kidney to save his white moonlight, quietly surfaced across major social media platforms. The article was written with such heartfelt emotion that it moved readers to tears. I detailed how Gu Yechen used $1 billion and immense power to coerce a kind and vulnerable girl into donating an organ for the woman he held in his heart. I also combined a photo of my sister looking pale and haggard from fright with a dashing elite shot of Gu Yechen I had cropped from a financial magazine, using my amateurish photo editing skills. On one side is a fragile little white flower, on the other is a ruthless capitalist. The contrast is stark, the impact overwhelming. At the end of the article, I wrote in a trembling tone, we are just ordinary people. We cannot fight him. He has money and power. He can silence us, make us disappear from this city. I don't know how long this article will remain, but I only seek justice. Can money truly allow one to do as they please? Every word hit the public's most sensitive nerve with pinpoint accuracy. Overnight, public opinion exploded. Hashtag CEO demands girlfriend's kidney. Hashtag real life fan Xingmei, sister treated as a human organ bank. Hashtag Gu Yechen, president of Xingshe Group. Hashtag. Several topics surged to the top of the trending list with an unstoppable momentum, each followed by a purplish-red, explosive character. Netizens were outraged. Is this still happening in the 21st century? Is this a domineering CEO? This is a human trafficker. That poor girl, run for your life. This isn't love, it's a death trap. Xingshe Group, got it. From now on, I won't buy a single product from any of their subsidiaries. Angry netizens acted with astonishing speed, quickly doxing Gu Yechen, his beloved by Weiwei, and the Xingshe Group behind them. The official website of Xingshe Group was flooded, and their Weibo page was overwhelmed with a torrent of curses. The public relations department was overwhelmed, issuing an emergency statement at 3 in the morning, claiming everything was false rumors and malicious slander, and threatening to pursue legal action. This arrogant statement only poured fuel on the fire. Still trying to talk tough? Do you think we're fools? If you have the guts, don't delete the posts. Feeling guilty, aren't you? Call the police. We must report this and have it thoroughly investigated. The next day, as soon as the market opened, Xingshe Group's stock price plummeted, evaporating billions within just 1 hour. Gu Yechen was furious and smashed everything in his office that could be broken. He mobilized all his resources to track down the person who had posted the information. However, I had long been fully prepared, using multiple overseas proxy IPs throughout the entire process of registering the account and posting. All he could trace was a bunch of meaningless addresses. My sister sat on the hotel bed, staring at the news on her phone, her hands trembling. Xiaofan, won't this make him even angrier? Her face showed both fear and a hint of unprecedented relief. I handed her the peeled apple. Sis, what you're afraid of isn't him getting angry. You're afraid of losing him. But what's there to miss about someone who wants to take your kidney? As soon as the words were spoken, her phone rang. The caller ID showed Yi Chen. My sister was so frightened she nearly threw her phone. I took it and put it on speakerphone. From the other end of the line came Gu Yechen's roar, barely containing his rage. Lin Qingxue, was it you? Do you have a death wish? I'm telling you, issue a statement to clarify immediately, or I'll make you and your damn brother disappear from City A for good. A blatant threat, without a shred of disguise. My sister's face turned completely pale. I looked at her, letting her clearly hear the man's helpless, furious roar. This is the truest form of the man she once loved. After all his masks of tenderness have been stripped away, before hanging up the phone, I picked up my mobile and calmly said into the receiver, Mr. Gu, according to Article 42 of the Public Security Administration Punishment Law, repeatedly sending threatening or intimidating messages that interfere with another person's normal life shall result in detention of up to 5 days or a fine of up to 500 yuan. For more serious circumstances, detention of 5 to 10 days may be imposed, along with a fine of up to 500 yuan. Your call has been recorded. If this happens again, we will directly submit it as evidence to the police. On the other end of the phone, Gu Yechen's breathing suddenly hitched. It was probably the first time he had ever felt this kind of helplessness, not stemming from a lack of power, but from rules he had absolutely no control over. I hung up the phone. My sister stared at me blankly for a long moment before whispering, Xiao Fan, I feel like I never truly knew him. This was a good start. Just then, the doorbell of the hotel room rang. I looked through the peephole and saw a woman sitting in a wheelchair, her face pale, holding a fruit basket in her hand. It was Bai Weiwei. She had actually come to find me in person. I opened the door, and Bai Weiwei, pushed by a caregiver, stopped at the entrance. She was dressed in a pristine white hospital gown, her face free of makeup, her lips pale from weakness, a fragile, pitiable sight, like a candle flickering in the wind. In the past, this pitiful appearance would have instantly stirred my sister Lin Qingshua's compassionate heart. Qingxua, sister, Bai Weiwei's voice was as faint as a thread, as if it might break at any moment. She didn't look at me. Her gaze passed over me and landed directly on Lin Qingxua behind me. Can I speak with you alone? My sister hesitated, looking at me. I smiled and stepped aside. Of course, please come in. I wanted to see what kind of act this legendary white moonlight was planning to put on. The caregiver wheeled Bai Weiwei into the room. She signaled for the caregiver to wait outside. Then, struggling, she reached out from her wheelchair to take my sister's hand. Qingxua, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Her tears came without warning, like pearls from a broken string. I know that request was too much, but I want to live too. Yechen isn't a bad person. He just loves me too much, is too afraid of losing me. That's why he did such an irrational thing. Please, can you forgive him? What a magnificent white lotus in this flourishing age. With just a few words, she lightly characterized the criminal act of forced kidney removal as mere irrationality, and in the process, she casually flaunted Gu Yechen's deep love for her. My sister really fell for it. She can't stand seeing others sick or upset. She turned her hand to hold Bai Weiwei's, her tone softening. Weiwei, don't say that. I'm not blaming you. Seeing my sister about to be led astray, I couldn't just keep watching the show. I rushed forward in a single stride, forcefully separating their hands, shielding my sister behind me. My eyes instantly reddened, my voice trembling even more than Bai Weiwei's. Miss, I beg you, please let us go. Bai Weiwei was stunned by my sudden action. She looked at me, a flicker of shock and anger flashing in her eyes. I paid no mind and continued with my performance. My sister has been frail since childhood. She endured so much hardship just to put me through school. She is our family's only hope. As I spoke, my knees gave way, and with a thud, I knelt down before Bai Weiwei. Of course, before I knelt down, I quickly kicked a cushion from the sofa under my knees. If you really need a kidney, don't go after my sister. Use mine. I'm still young, I'm in good health, and I'll recover quickly. Please, I beg you, as long as you let my sister go, I'll do anything you ask. My wails were piercingly mournful, carrying far through the quiet hotel corridor. As I spoke, I raised my hand and delivered 2 sharp slaps to my own face. In truth, they were all feigned motions, loud in sound but causing no pain at all. It's all my fault. I'm useless. I couldn't protect my sister. I deserve to die. My series of actions completely stunned Bai Weiwei and my sister standing behind her. The door to the adjacent room opened, and people in the hallway also poked their heads out, pointing and whispering in our direction. Oh my! Isn't that the so-called white moonlight from the internet? What's going on? The one kneeling on the ground is her brother, right? My God, what has driven someone to this point? Kneeling and slapping their own face, so beautiful on the outside, yet so cruel on the inside. The murmurs of the crowd were like tiny knives, piercing Bai Weiwei's heart. Her face turned pale, then flushed, a vivid display of emotions. Her set of green tea tactics seemed so pale and powerless in the face of my aesthetics of violence. You get up. What are you doing? She finally broke down, her voice sharpening. My sister was also stunned, and after snapping out of it, she rushed over to pull me up. Xiao Fan, what are you doing? Get up now. She held me, tears pattering down, her heart aching unbearably. When she looked at Bai Weiwei, the last trace of sympathy and guilt in her eyes completely vanished, leaving only cold defensiveness. Bai Weiwei's meticulously planned, sympathy offensive, was utterly shattered by me in the simplest and most brutal way. She knew that staying any longer today would not gain her any advantage. Instead, it would only solidify her image as the vicious supporting character. She gritted her teeth, turned the wheelchair herself, and almost fled in a panic, watching her retreating figure. I stood up from the ground and brushed off the non-existent dust from my knees. I winked at my sister and flashed a triumphant smile. Sis, did you learn something? This is what you call fighting fire with fire. My sister looked at me, crying and laughing at the same time, before finally nodding heavily. Just then, my mom called, her voice filled with urgency. Xiao Fan, it's bad. All the suppliers for our supermarket have said they won't supply us anymore. Gu Yechen's counterattack has arrived. Gu Yechen's methods are brutal and direct. He used his connections, and with just one phone call, he severed all the supply channels for my family's small supermarket, which we rely on for our livelihood. Once the remaining stock in the warehouse is sold out, we'll have to shut down for good. That's not enough. He even looked up the university I attended and directly pressured the president, demanding that the school expel me on the grounds of misconduct. This is a classic domineering CEO-style dimensional strike, relentlessly pushing someone to the brink from both an economic and future prospects standpoint. Unfortunately, he miscalculated. I had long anticipated he would pull this move. Mom, don't worry. If they cut off the supply, so be it. It's actually a good opportunity for us to take stock and clear out the inventory. Everything at 50% off. Let's turn all the goods on hand into cash first. I've been wanting to say this for a while. That small supermarket is exhausting and barely profitable. It's the perfect time for us to pivot. Over the phone, my mom was half convinced, half doubtful, but she still listened to me. As for the school, I was even less worried. As soon as the situation began to escalate, I proactively reached out to my academic advisor. I showed my advisor both the photo of the organ donation agreement and the recording of Gu Yechen threatening my sister. I also put on a pitiful act, explaining that I had offended someone influential and had been harassed by outsiders recently, and that I was very scared. The counselor was a young man with a strong sense of justice. He immediately stated that he would report the situation to the school and reminded me to be careful. So, when Gu Yechen's pressure reached the principal not only did not expel me but instead treated it as a positive example of protecting students against the evil forces of capital. The school not only did not punish me but also applied for hardship assistance and psychological counseling for me. Gu Yechen's commercial blockade and public opinion pressure all failed. He must have been absolutely furious. In his rage and humiliation, he resorted to the most despicable and foolish move, physical threats. That evening, just as I stepped out of the school library, I was cornered by two men on a quiet, deserted path. They were wearing tight black t-shirts, with dragons and tigers tattooed on their arms, their faces twisted into menacing scowls. Kid, it's you, right? We told you not to meddle, but you just wouldn't listen. Mister, Gu sent us to give you a proper lesson. I looked at them, feeling not the slightest bit of panic. In fact, I almost wanted to laugh. What era is this? Still solving problems like some old school gangster. I pretended to be scared and took 2 steps back, but my hand quietly slipped into my pocket and pressed a shortcut key on my phone. A live stream link was instantly shared across several of my social media accounts. The title of the live stream was, Late Night Food Exploration, Unexpectedly Encountering Gangsters. How to Save Yourself Like a Textbook Example. The next second, I raised my phone, aiming the camera directly at the 2 thugs. I shouted at the camera with a voice choked with tears, Big brother, big brother. What are you trying to do? I'm still a student. I have no money. Robbery is illegal. According to Article 263 of the criminal law, it carries a minimum sentence of 3 years, and the maximum penalty can be death. The 2 thugs were completely thrown off by my sudden, bizarre move. They stared at the phone in my hand, momentarily at a loss for what to do. The live stream's comment section instantly exploded. Holy shit, the streamer is actually going for it. The expressions on these two guys are killing me. They look completely bewildered. Streamer, don't be afraid. I'm calling the police for you right now. The address is the small path at the east gate of XX University, right? 666. Live legal education, as expected of you. Consultant Lin. I ignored the barrage of comments and continued with my mission of legal education. Bro, look, there are tens of thousands of people watching right now. If you stop now and turn yourselves in, it can still count as voluntary abandonment of the crime and voluntary surrender, which could lead to a lighter or reduced punishment. Think about your families. Think about your children. Don't act on impulse and go down the path of crime. My tone was utterly sincere, as if I were a saintly figure trying to save misguided youths. One of the thugs, furious and humiliated, tried to rush forward and snatch my phone. You're looking for death, kid, I immediately shouted at the camera. He's about to hit me, warning for self-defense. Just then, the piercing sound of a police siren came from the distance. It grew louder and louder, speeding toward us. The two thugs' faces turned pale, and they immediately turned to run, but it was already too late. Several police officers got out of the patrol car and quickly subdued them. When the police arrived, the scene they witnessed was surprisingly harmonious. Two fierce-looking thugs were crouching in the corner, covering their heads in submission. Meanwhile, I was holding my phone, explaining the sentencing standards for incitement to over 100,000 viewers in the live stream. Gu Yechen's physical persuasion plan not only completely fell apart but also earned him an investigation for the charge of inciting others to commit intentional harm. This time, it won't be so easy for him to walk away unscathed. I turned off the live stream and watched the thugs being escorted into the police car. Feeling utterly indifferent, I compiled all the evidence, including the chat records with the suppliers and the video confessions of the thugs, and sent it all to my sister. It was time for her to end this with her own hands. I gathered all the evidence into a single file and sent it to my sister's phone. Screenshots of the chat showing the supermarket supply being cut off, the recorded phone call from the principal's office, and the live stream replay of me being surrounded by thugs. Lin Qingxue sat alone in the hotel room, silently watching everything. I didn't disturb her. I knew that some hurdles had to be overcome by herself. A long time passed before she called me. On the other end of the line was a muffled sob. She cried for a long time, pouring out all the grievances, resentments, and fears of these years. Finally, her voice hoarse, she said to me, "Xiao Fan, I understand." After crying, there was no longer confusion in her voice, only an unprecedented determination. "This isn't love, it's hell. I'm going to climb out of this hell." I smiled. "Sis, I support you. You have never been anyone's accessory. You are Lin Qingxue, and you are simply yourself." I contacted several influential media figures who had previously spoken up for us and organized a small online clarification briefing. The venue was set up in the hotel conference room we had rented. The next day, Lin Qingxue sat before the camera. She applied light makeup, changed into a crisp professional outfit, and tied her hair up high, no longer the delicate, seemingly boneless daughter vine that once trailed behind Gu Yechen. Her eyes were bright and resolute, and she seemed to radiate light from within. "Hello everyone, I am Lin Qingxue." She faced the camera and spoke calmly. There were no tears, no pleas for sympathy. She simply recounted, with composure, how she and Gu Yechen had met, how they had fallen in love, and how she had gradually become a tool to satisfy his desire for control. Then, she produced the agreement that Gu Yechen had once made her sign, gifting her the property and luxury cars. It was, in fact, a beautifully packaged yet profoundly unequal, kept woman contract. Clause 3. During the term of this agreement, Party B, Lin Qingxue, shall not engage in any interactions with members of the opposite sex that exceed the boundaries of ordinary friendship. Clause 5. Party B must keep her mobile phone accessible 24 hours a day. Party A, Gu Yechen, reserves the right to inspect Party B's communication devices at any time. Clause 7. When Party A has a need, Party B must unconditionally comply with all of Party A's demands, including but not limited to. She read out each clause, filled with control and possessiveness. The live stream chat went wild. "Is this a gift agreement? This is a slave contract. Oh my God, how on earth did my sister endure all this?" Tear it up. Are you keeping this garbage contract for the new year? Witnessed by millions of netizens, Lin Qingxue looked into the camera and spoke word by word. Today, I stand here not to seek sympathy, but to tell all the girls who have had similar experiences as me, control, suppression, and harm in the name of love are not love, our personality, our bodies, our dignity. None of these can become commodities to be traded. With that, she picked up the agreement and tore it in half. Right down the middle, rip, rip, she shredded the agreement into tiny pieces and flung them into the air. The scraps of paper fell like snow, fluttering and drifting down. From this day forward, I, Lin Qingxue, have no further relationship with Mr. Gu Yechen. I will return all the gifts he has given me and reserve the legal right to pursue his threats and harm against me. At that moment, I saw a light shining from my sister, as if she were glowing. Far away in the top floor office of Xingshi Group, Gu Yechen watched it all unfold on the screen. He angrily smashed the expensive monitor in front of him directly onto the ground. This was the first time he had ever felt completely out of control when it came to emotions. The topic hashtag Lin Qingxue takes down the domineering CEO hashtag replaced the previous hot search, becoming a new inspirational benchmark. Looking at my radiant sister beside me, I knew she had finally shattered her shackles and gained a new life, and my phone was flooded with a blizzard of private messages. Advisor Lin, save me, my boyfriend has locked me in a villa and won't let me leave. What should I do, master? I'm being emotionally manipulated by my boss, working unpaid overtime every day, and even having to wash his underwear. I'm about to break down. My father is a gambler and wants to sell me to an old man to pay off his debts. Can I call the police? Looking at these pleas for help, a bold idea began to take root in my mind. The favorable wind Gu Yechen sent my way couldn't go to waste. My private message inbox was flooded with all kinds of pleas for help. I'd discovered that far more people are troubled by domineering CEO types than I had imagined. They may not be CEOs, but they possess the same twisted desire for control and sense of entitlement as Gu Yechen, being forced by a superior to serve as a personal assistant. Available at all times, being restricted in personal freedom by a wealthy boyfriend, having one's phone checked, exploited by their families of origin, treated as tools for gaining benefits. These individuals are like the faceless supporting characters in domineering CEO novels, enduring silent suffering in their own worlds. A business opportunity, no, a massive chance for legal education, lay before me. A brilliant idea struck me, and I immediately registered a public account. Naming it, the Anti-Domineering CEO and Anti-PUA Mutual Aid Alliance, I compiled and uploaded the entire sequence of previous events, along with explanations of the relevant legal provisions and the video of my sister tearing up the contract. At the same time, I launched a paid consultation service, 99 yuan for a basic legal and public opinion support plan, 999 yuan for one-on-one in-depth guidance from consultant Lin, with a customized plan to get you out of trouble, 9,999 yuan. Deluxe package includes legal letter and media exposure services. I originally just wanted to give it a try, but I never expected that as soon as the platform went live, orders exploded. The first client was a recent graduate intern. She caught the eye of the company's little tyrant and was forced to sign a trap-filled, indentured servitude contract, stipulating that she couldn't leave her job within 5 years, or she would have to pay 3 million in compensation. I spent half an hour using my knowledge of labor law to help her analyze each illegal clause in the contract one by one. Don't worry, a contract that violates mandatory provisions of labor law is nothing more than a worthless piece of paper. I guided her in writing a resignation letter, prepared the evidence, and advised her to go directly to labor arbitration. A week later, she excitedly told me that not only had she resigned smoothly, but the company had also reimbursed all her overtime pay. The second client was a caged canary held captive in a suburban villa by a charming yet sinister CEO. I taught her how to discreetly gather evidence of her illegal confinement using various household items. She marked dates on a calendar with lipstick, secretly recorded the other party's threatening remarks on a backup phone, and wrote distress messages on toilet paper to toss out the window. At the same time, I helped her contact the local women's federation and the police. In the end, the girl was successfully rescued, and the charming CEO was also placed under investigation for suspected illegal confinement. The reputation of the anti-CEO alliance skyrocketed overnight. I transformed from a poor student brother into the highly profitable CEO buster, consultant Lin. My sister, Lin Qingxue, also officially joined my career. She was no longer the daughter vine that needed protection, but the alliance's chief psychological counselor. Using her own personal experiences, she guided those victims who were also struggling in pain, helping them rebuild their confidence. She found her true value in life, and her entire being radiated with a confident glow. Our cause was thriving. I even developed some merchandise. T-shirts printed with Article 234 of the criminal law, intentional injury, canvas bags printed with Article 1042 of the Civil Code, prohibition of arranged and mercenary marriages, and high-decibel anti-harassment alarms, which sold surprisingly well and were once sold out. At the other end of City A, Gu Yechen watched through news and business reports as I, stepping over his corpse, not only survived but also made a fortune by riding his east wind. His mindset, it is said, completely collapsed. He began to grow increasingly irrational, like a beast trapped in a cage, ready at any moment to make a final desperate struggle. That day, my sister and I were in a company meeting, planning the future of the alliance. Sister's phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the caller ID. It was a friend from before. The call connected, and an anxious voice came through from the other end. Qingxue, it's bad. I just saw Gu Yechen's men smash up your family's supermarket. My sister and I exchanged a glance, our hearts sinking. Had he finally abandoned even the last shred of dignity and resorted to violence? But when we arrived at the scene, we found the situation completely different from what we had imagined. The entrance to the supermarket was crowded with people, yet there was no sign of any destruction or fighting. My mother stood with her hands on her hips at the entrance of the supermarket, shouting angrily at a few rough-looking men. Those men, in a flustered rush, were helping the neighbors at the supermarket entrance pick up the fruits that had spilled all over the ground. The one leading them was none other than the gang leader I had educated on the law and sent to the police station last time. When he saw me, it was as if he had spotted a savior. He ran over with a pitiful, tearful expression on his face. Advisor Lin, you're finally here. President Gu has gone mad. He ordered us to smash your shop. But after attending your lecture last time, we know that's illegal. We don't dare do it. I froze. Is the legal education effect this good? The gang leader continued to sob. If we didn't smash the place, he said he'd cripple us. We had no choice but to come to your shop, buy some things, and pretend to wreck it just to take a photo as proof for him. Who knew your mom was so tough? The moment we knocked over a box of apples, she grabbed a feather duster and chased after us, beating us up. Watching my mom's imposing and formidable demeanor, I couldn't help but twitch the corner of my mouth. Turns out, the toughest fighter in my family isn't me, it's my mom. Gu Yechen's counterattack once again ended in failure, in an utterly ridiculous manner. I have a feeling he's not far from being driven to desperate measures. I took out my phone, opened a shopping app, and searched for GPS tracking watch and pinhole recording necklace. It's never wrong to take precautions before trouble arises. My premonition was soon confirmed. After suffering defeats on the commercial, public opinion, and physical threat fronts, Gu Yechen finally resorted to the ultimate cliché in domineering CEO novels, kidnapping. He probably thought that by having Lin Qingxue under his control, he could regain the initiative. However, he didn't know that what he was facing was an anti-domineering CEO alliance, armed to the teeth with modern technology and legal knowledge. That afternoon, my sister said she was going to meet a client, a girl who had previously sought help from the alliance. As usual, I made her wear the full set of anti-kidnapping gear I had bought. That pink children's watch is actually a military-grade GPS tracker, with an error margin of no more than 5 meters. The seemingly ordinary necklace pendant is a high-definition pinhole camera and voice recorder. There was also a small compact mirror in the bag, with a one-touch alarm button on the back that could silently send the location and on-site audio recording to my phone and a preset alarm platform. Less than an hour after my sister went out, my phone received the alarm. I opened the app, and the red dot representing my sister was rapidly deviating from the city center, moving toward the suburbs. At the same time, a frantic audio recording came through. Who are you? Let me go. It was my sister's panicked voice. Miss Lin, apologies, Mr. Gu wishes to see you, an unfamiliar male voice. My heart sank, but I didn't panic. The worst-case scenario had occurred, but everything was within the plan. I immediately dialed 911. Hello, 911, I'm reporting a crime. My sister has been kidnapped. I have her real-time GPS location and audio evidence from the scene. The kidnapper is Gu Yechen from Xingshi Group. The operator reacted with lightning speed, immediately transferring the call to the homicide division. I relayed all the information to the police, who promptly dispatched a SWAT team based on the location, to leave the most perfect, ironclad evidence of Gu Yechen's crimes, and also for the sake of the show's effect, I opened my live streaming account once again. This time, the headline is even more explosive: Ultimate Showdown, Immersive Experience, join the police in rescuing a hostage kidnapped by a domineering CEO. As soon as the live stream started, the viewership instantly surpassed 1 million. Netizens went wild. Holy shit, going this far, straight up kidnapping, the streamer's insane. What kind of god-tier script is this? Brothers, the moment to witness history is here, the birth of a top-tier legal drama star. While staying in contact with the police, I calmly analyzed the case on camera. Everyone, according to the GPS tracking, my sister has been taken to an abandoned chemical plant in the southern suburbs. This is a classic kidnapping scenario. The criminal, Gu Yechen, has violated Article 239 of the criminal law, the crime of kidnapping, which carries a maximum penalty of death. I drove to the temporary command post set up by the police outside the chemical plant. Through the footage transmitted by the drone, we could clearly see the situation inside the warehouse. Gu Yechen stood in the center of the warehouse, hands clasped behind his back, still wearing that same arrogant expression. My sister was held by 2 men in black, her mouth sealed with tape, but there was not much fear in her eyes. Instead, an unusual calmness. I knew she was waiting for me, waiting for the judgment of the law to fall upon us. Gu Yechen finally spoke, seeming to relish the feeling of being in control of everything. He stepped forward and tore the tape off my sister's mouth. Qingxue, why did you betray me? I gave you so much money, gave you a life of wealth and luxury that others could never attain in a lifetime. Why aren't you satisfied? Classic domineering CEO lines. My sister looked at him, her eyes filled with pity. Gu Yechen, don't you understand even now? What you give isn't love, it's a shackle. Gu Yechen was stung by her unfamiliar gaze. Fine, fine. Since soft tactics don't work, we'll go with the hard ones. He grabbed my sister's wrist. Today, I'll make you understand who your master really is. Now is the time. At the commander's order, the SWAT team burst through the door. Freeze, police. A deafening noise and blinding light instantly filled the entire warehouse. Gu Yechen was left stunned by this sudden turn of events. Almost at the same moment, my sister calmly pressed the button on the compact mirror in her bag. The sharp, piercing alarm blared throughout the warehouse, its decibel level so high that everyone instinctively covered their ears. The live stream audience was completely electrified. Professional, so professional. Sis is so calm. Love it, love it. Where did you get this alarm? I'll take a dozen. Gu Yechen and his men hadn't even had time to react before they were pinned to the ground by fully armed SWAT officers. His face was a canvas of ultimate philosophical confusion, etched with the questions: who am I? Where am I? What just happened? Even as the handcuffs clicked shut around his wrists, he couldn't wrap his head around why the police had arrived so quickly and so precisely. I held my phone and walked up to him, looking down at his disheveled state from above. The camera focused on his face, etched with resentment and confusion. Addressing the millions of viewers in the live stream, I calmly remarked, "See, everyone, this is the consequence of knowingly breaking the law. Gu Yechen has been formally placed under criminal detention on suspicion of kidnapping. This time, the charge is a felony, and the evidence is ironclad. Even a high-priced legal team can't get him out now." I watched Gu Yechen being escorted into the police car, knowing that this farce was about to face its final judgment, but the Gu family would not let it go easily. I knew that in the courtroom, there was still a tough battle to fight. Gu Yechen's case, involving a well-known entrepreneur and significant public attention, was designated as a key case by the A City Court and was to be expedited for trial. The Gu family spared no expense to save their worthless heir. They hired a top-tier legal team, led by the chief attorney Zhou Wenba, known as the undefeated myth in the legal world. Zhou Wenba was famous in the industry for his skill in twisting concepts and finding procedural loopholes. Under his hand, Even the blackest cases could be painted white. Before the trial even began, the media had already started building momentum, all sorts of whitewashing articles, filled with excuses like unavoidable circumstances, madly in love, and intense communication between couples, were flying everywhere. They were trying to paint a vicious criminal kidnapping case as a melodramatic urban love story. My sister trembled with anger when she saw these news reports. I patted her on the shoulder. Don't worry. They have their clever strategies, but I have my own ways to get around them. I poured every last penny of my first pot of gold, earned from the anti-domineering CEO alliance, into this. The person I hired was a legendary maverick in the city's legal circles. His name was Luo Cheng, known as Lawyer Luo, a wild card who specialized in tough battles and never played by the rules. It is said that he never wears a lawyer's robe in court and loves to tell philosophical jokes to opposing lawyers and judges during trials. However, the cases he handles have a success rate as high as 90%. The courtroom is bustling with noise and excitement. The media and spectators have packed the small courtroom to capacity. Gu Yechen, dressed in prison uniform with a buzz cut, looked considerably haggard. Yet his eyes still held a trace of defiance. The opposing lawyer, Zhou Wenba, immediately presented their core defense argument. My client, Mr. Gu Yechen, harbors deep affection for Ms. Lin Qingxue. His series of actions, including inviting Ms. Lin to the suburban warehouse, were merely an attempt to have an undisturbed, in-depth conversation with her. At its core, this was an intense dispute between lovers born out of love and should not be defined as a malicious kidnapping crime. He spoke with such high-sounding rhetoric that even the hired trolls brought in by the Gu family were nodding in agreement below. It was my lawyer, Attorney Luo, who took the floor next. Attorney Luo adjusted his black-framed glasses and slowly walked to the center of the courtroom. Instead of directly refuting the claims, he posed a question to the judge. Your Honor, I would like to ask a question. If you love someone very, very much, you should kidnap them, then. Since I now feel I'm somewhat falling in love with the exceptionally talented lawyer, Mr. Zhou Wenba, over there, should I also tie him up in a warehouse and have a thorough discussion with him? The entire courtroom erupted in laughter. Zhou Wenba's face instantly turned ashen. The judge slammed the gavel heavily. Order in the court. Defense counsel, mind your language. Lawyer Luo smiled faintly before finally getting to the main point. He presented the complete chain of evidence I had provided, from the earliest organ donation agreement to the phone recording of Gu Yechen threatening my sister, from his commercial suppression of my family's supermarket to inciting thugs to corner me. Finally, there is the high-definition video and audio recording from the kidnapping scene. From this evidence, it can be seen that the defendant, Gu Yechen, harbored a continuous and escalating criminal motive and behavior toward my client, Ms. Lin Qingxue. This is by no means an accidental, intense communication, but a premeditated criminal act aimed at violating another person's personal freedom. During the cross-examination, Lawyer Luo's wild card style was on full display. He posed a series of tricky and absurd legal hypotheticals to Gu Yechen. Mr. Gu, if you fell in love with a bank, would you also kidnap it and lock it in your basement? Mr. Gu, if you feel the law is hindering you from expressing your affection, do you also want to lock the criminal law away in a warehouse? Gu Yechen was left dizzy and utterly confused by his question, his logic completely in disarray. He was never a character of high intelligence to begin with, and in the face of a top-tier troll like Lawyer Luo, he stood no chance of fighting back. I didn't. I just love her. What's wrong with me loving her? Gu Yechen finally lost control of his emotions in court and roared. His paranoid and frenzied demeanor only confirmed his violent tendencies and antisocial personality. Finally, my sister Lin Qingxue took the witness stand as a witness. She did not glance at Gu Yechen, but calmly and resolutely recounted all the facts exactly as they were. Her strength and rationality earned everyone's respect and sympathy. The trial concluded, and the outcome was already beyond doubt. Luo and I shook hands at the courthouse entrance. He pushed his glasses up and looked at me, saying something meaningful. Law, sometimes, is a form of performance art, and you, kid, are a born artist. I smiled. I knew that Gu Yechen's era had come to an end, but the soil that forged Gu Yechen still exists. For example, that white moonlight still lying in the hospital bed, waiting for a kidney source. Before Gu Yechen's verdict was even handed down, Shengshe Group was already in chaos. the chairman was suspected of the serious crime of kidnapping, causing the stock price to plummet. Several major cooperative projects were urgently halted, and banks began demanding loan repayments. The board of directors convened an emergency meeting overnight, swiftly removing Gu Yechen from all his positions and electing a new chairman. Immediately afterward, the Gu family issued a public statement, declaring that Gu Yechen's actions were purely personal and had caused severe negative impacts on society, expressing deep sorrow and apologies on behalf of the family. In the statement, they completely severed ties with Gu Yechen and announced the freezing of most of the assets under his name that had been gifted by the family. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. Those who once surrounded Gu Yechen vanished without a trace overnight. The first to abandon him was his cherished white moonlight, Bai Weiwei. Upon learning that Gu Yechen's power had waned and he was unlikely to be released, Bai Weiwei went to visit him in prison once. She wasn't there to comfort Gu Yechen. She was there to demand a breakup settlement. I know it's hard for you, Yechen, but my illness can't wait any longer, and going abroad for treatment requires a huge sum of money. After all, we loved each other once. Through the cold glass, Gu Yechen stared at the woman he once believed to be as pure as a blank sheet of paper. Seeing greed and calculation on her face for the very first time, he said nothing, just hung up the phone. It is said that after that day, Gu Yechen's hair turned white overnight in the detention center. As for Bai Weiwei, after failing to squeeze the last bit of value out of Gu Yechen, she immediately began searching for her next target. My anti-tyrant CEO alliance intelligence network soon brought me new information. Bai Weiwei began to frequent the headquarters of another leading enterprise in City A, the Chu Group. She was, coincidentally, encountering the famously cold and reticent CEO of the Chu Group, Chu Mo. Her tactics remained the same old routine. When President Chu passed by, she would feign a delicate faint right in front of him, waiting for him to play the part of the hero rescuing the damsel in distress. I looked at the intelligence and smiled. What I love doing most is helping others achieve their dreams. I gathered all the glorious deeds I had previously collected about Bai Weiwei, including how she incited Gu Yechen, how she put on a show at his doorstep, and a medical report I had someone obtain showing that her kidney function was perfectly fine, and packaged them into a beautifully designed folder. Then, I anonymously sent it to the email of the special assistant to the president of the Chu Group. The email subject was, a due diligence investigation report on MS, Bai Weiwei. The next day, at the foot of the Chu Group building, Bai Weiwei, having calculated the exact time Mr. Chu would leave work, once again performed her, fainting in weakness, act. She lay on the ground, stealing glances from the corner of her eye. The tall and handsome Mr. Chu indeed stopped in his tracks and walked toward her. Bai Weiwei's heart leaped with joy. However, Mr. Chu merely glanced down at her from his superior height, then said to the bodyguard behind him, call an ambulance. Tell the doctor this young lady might be faking it. Please give her a full body checkup, including a brain CT and kidney function tests. She'll cover the costs herself. With that, he got into the car without looking back, leaving Bai Weiwei alone, awkwardly lying on the cold ground, enduring the stares of passers-by who looked at her as if she were a fool. Bai Weiwei's plan had failed once again, and in an even more socially humiliating way. She became the laughingstock of the entire upper-class circle in City A. No other tycoon would dare to take her on now. I have no idea how Gu Yechen felt upon hearing this news in prison. All I know is that when my sister saw this outcome, she let out a long sigh of relief. With deep emotion, she said to me, thank goodness I ran away fast. Yes, fortunately, a few days later, the final verdict was announced. I decided to see Gu Yechen one last time, to put a perfect end to this farce that had lasted for months. The day the court announced the verdict, the weather was clear. Gu Yechen was sentenced to 10 years in prison for multiple charges including kidnapping, intentional injury, preparation, and incitement, with the sentences to be served concurrently. 10 years, a once prominent rising star in the business world will now spend his most precious 10 years of youth behind high walls, learning the law he had never once taken seriously. As soon as the news broke, the entire internet erupted in celebration. My anti-domineering CEO alliance public account received countless congratulatory messages and commendation banners from users in the form of tips. My personal account also gained millions of followers, jokingly dubbed by netizens as the top streamer of legal cases and the walking criminal law. Everything has settled. I applied to the prison for a visitation. In the visitation room, I saw Gu Yechen wearing blue and white striped prison clothes. He had lost a lot of weight. His skin pale from long absence of sunlight, his hair shaved into a crew cut. The arrogance and defiance that once filled his eyes had turned into a lifeless, ashen gray. When he saw me, his expression was complex. There was hatred, there was resentment, but more than anything, there was a deep-seated confusion and bewilderment. It seemed that even now, he still couldn't understand why he had lost, why he had ended up in this situation. We picked up the phone, separated by the glass. He remained silent, saying nothing. I wasn't in a hurry either. From the bag I carried with me, I took out something. It was a brand new copy of the Criminal Law of the People's Republic of China. Still carrying the scent of fresh ink, I raised it and pointed it at him. Mr. Gu, long time no see. His pupils contracted sharply. I smiled and said, 10 years is not a short time. Don't be idle inside. Make sure to study and learn whenever you have the chance. Knowledge changes destiny. In 10 years, when you come out, turn over a new leaf and become a law-abiding citizen. I opened the book to the title page, where I had written a line in advance. I showed it to Gu Yechen. To Mr. Gu Yechen, may the light of the law illuminate your next 10 years of sewing machine. The path ahead. Signed, your lifelong legal education mentor, Lin Xiaofan. Gu Yechen stared fixedly at those words, his chest heaving violently, his breathing growing heavier and heavier. He finally understood. I am not ignorant, nor am I merely clever. From the very beginning, I was playing him for a fool, using rules he couldn't possibly understand. This ultimate, condescending mockery from the victor shattered his last line of psychological defense. He suddenly stood up, letting out a roar of unwillingness and despair, like a beast whose claws and fangs had been completely torn out. He wanted to lunge forward, but was blocked by the sturdy bulletproof glass. 2 prison guards immediately rushed in and forcibly dragged him out as he lost control of his emotions. I calmly watched him being dragged away and put down the phone. As I turned to leave, a prison guard who knew me gave me a thumbs up. Young man, not bad at all. We've held so many ideological education meetings, yet none have been as effective as this one book of yours. I smiled, keeping my achievements and reputation to myself. Walking under the sunlight outside the prison, I let out a long, deep sigh of relief. An absurd era belonging to the domineering CEO was brought to an end by my own hand, and a new era belonging to me and my sister has just begun. 1 year later, in the most bustling area of City A's CBD, inside a bright and clean office, the gilded sign of Path of Justice Legal Consulting Co., Ltd., gleamed brilliantly under the sunlight. Lin Xiaofan, am the founder and CEO of this company. My sister, Lin Qingxua, serves as the company's vice president and chief psychological counselor. After a year of development, our anti-domineering boss alliance has evolved from a small online platform into a legitimate company with a business scope covering multiple areas, including anti-workplace PUA, anti-domestic violence, labor rights protection, and legal consulting for small and micro enterprises. We became a viral law firm, famous not only in City A but across the entire country. My sister underwent the most significant transformation. She cut her hair into a sharp, short style, dressed in professional suits, and carried herself with confident and composed eyes. When facing the tearful victims who came seeking help, she always managed to comfort and encourage them with the gentlest yet strongest force. She became an idol and beacon for countless women struggling in difficult circumstances. And our family's little supermarket wasn't idle either. We transformed it into a community public interest legal aid center, specifically providing free legal consultation services to vulnerable groups in the community, such as elderly people living alone and individuals with disabilities. My mother, that formidable woman who once chased after troublemakers with a feather duster, is now the most popular, confidant auntie at the aid center, busily engaged every day and thoroughly enjoying it. Everything was falling into place. Beautiful as an unreal dream. That afternoon, my sister and I were discussing a new case. The client, Miss Xiao, 23 years old, is being pursued by a chaebol heir named Long Outyan. I read the information aloud. In his pursuit of her, this Long Outyan went so far as to buy the entire apartment building she was renting, making himself her landlord. Then, every night at midnight, he would use 100 drones to form a heart-shaped, I love you pattern outside her window. blasting cheesy love songs on loop through loudspeakers. MS. Zhao was so terrified that she developed neurasthenia and hasn't dared to go home to sleep for several days now. Her older sister calmly analyzed. This is a classic case of harassment. It already involves suspected violations of the client's right to privacy and peace. We can guide her in gathering evidence and applying to the court for a personal safety protection order. I nodded and picked up the phone on the table. Hello. Is this the Urban Management Law Enforcement Team? I'd like to report something. Yes, at the Huafu Tiandi residential area, someone is operating a large number of drones illegally within the no-fly zone. It poses serious safety hazards and is causing noise disturbance to residents. My sister looked at me, her expression a mix of helplessness and amusement. I dialed another number. Hello, is this the Environmental Protection Bureau? I want to report nighttime noise pollution. After finishing the call, I hung up the phone and smiled at my sister. Professional matters should be left to the professionals. Multi-department joint enforcement and multi-dimensional strikes are the most efficient. Sunlight streamed in through the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a golden halo over us. We exchanged a knowing smile. In this world we had personally reshaped. A new day still brimmed with challenges, and countless moments of laughter. I believe that as long as there is light, darkness will eventually be dispelled, and we are that very light of righteousness. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it.